Hey, welcome to Fantasy Football Live. I'm TJ Jefferson. I'm here with the fantasy consultant Nathan Zagora. We want to get you ready for week 9 of the NFL season by letting you know who should park it next to you on the couch. So, Nate, what quarterback should not see the field on Sunday for you this
The
week?
quarterback you want to sit this week is Kyle Orton. He got off to a great start, kind of lulled us into a sense of security. Well, it seems as though he's run into a wall. He's been under 230 yards passing in 3 of his last 5, under 160 yards in 2 of his last 5, and is coming off a season worst 152 yards and no touchdowns against the Baltimore Ravens. It looks like the Ravens may have figured out how to stop the Broncos. Take away the run, take away Brandon Marshall, and dare anybody else on the team to beat you. Look for the Steelers coming off their bye at home to employ the same strategy. It's going to be a long day for Cowboy Kyle.
What about running back? Now, which guy are you not so sure should see the field this week?
You know, this week I'm going to sit Brian Westbrook. Brian Westbrook has been one of the brightest lights in the fantasy football world for many a year, but it seems that father time, injuries, etc., a young upstart, LaShawn McCoy, all these factors have caught up with him, and he's struggling this year. Missed last week with a concussion. He's already missed another game with an ankle injury, but even when he's played, he hasn't been that good. Brian Westbrook only topped 70 total yards in 1 game this year, and that was against the Oakland Raiders. He hasn't topped 20 yards receiving in a game but once, and that's really shocking to me. Over 60 yards rushing, only once, only 2 touchdowns on the year. Now, when you look at LaShawn McCoy in the 2 games that Westbrook missed, McCoy over 80 yards rushing with a touchdown, over 90 yards total in both of those games. So Westbrook not producing at the level you'd expect from him. And this week he has a tough divisional matchup with the Dallas Cowboys, who have been a very good run defense. They've given up just 105 yards per game on the ground, and they've only allowed 3 rushing touchdowns on the season. That's 5th fewest in the NFL. With the Philly O-line struggling to open holes, it could be a long day for Westbrook because he's not really as involved in the passing game as he has been in years past.
As a Dallas Cowboy fan, though, I will say this. Westbrook traditionally has gone off against
He
us.
has.
So I'd be a little wary about sitting him, but that's just how I feel. And also, with LaShawn McCoy, he only had 20 yards rushing until he broke off for that 60-plus yard touchdown run.
Totally agreed. And that's kind of what I'm talking about as far as, you know, the offensive line having issues opening holes. There are 2 runs that they had good runs. Weaver was a 40-yard touchdown, and McCoy went 60 yards. Other than that, they really didn't run the ball effectively.
Good point. Now, you also have one other guy that you're not so sure about this
You know, Beanie Wells, lots of hype about him. But look, it's Tim Hightower's team. He gets the goal line carries. He splits carries pretty evenly with Wells. Even if Wells takes a few more, it doesn't matter because Hightower gets the 3rd down work and the all-important scoring carries. So I'm going to go ahead and sit Chris Wells this week against Chicago Bears team that's only allowed 1 running back to top 70 yards against them since week 3.
And Hightower, of course, is heavily targeted out of the backfield.
Number 1 in the NFL among running backs with 7 targets a game. You got to like that.
Wide receiver, which guys are you not wanting to play this week?
You know, this week we're going to stay away from Mario Manningham. Coming off a shoulder injury, but he's back at practice. He will play this week, but it's a tough matchup. You see, San Diego 6th against the pass overall, but when it comes to wide receivers, they've only allowed 683 receiving yards to wide receivers on the season. That is fewest in the NFL. I don't like the matchup for Manningham, so I would sit him down this week.
Now, what about tight end?
You know, tight end, I know the position's thinned out. You got some guys on bye this week with Zach Miller and Dustin Keller. You've also been without Owen Daniels, and you're without Chris Cooley due to injury. I would sit Heath Miller. The Denver Broncos have allowed a league low 192 yards to tight ends this season. That's less than 25 yards a game. I would sit him down against the Denver Broncos. Tough matchup. They've also only allowed 1 touchdown to opposing tight ends, 2nd fewest in the league, so I just don't like it. Heath Miller, fine player, an excellent start more often than not, but this week he's got one of the toughest matchups at that position.
What about defense? Which defense would you keep on the bench?
You know, there are 3 that I'd sit this week. The New York Giants going against the Chargers, talked about their struggles against the pass, giving up 280 yards and 2.7 touchdowns per game over the last 3 weeks. Look for Rivers to light them up. I'd also sit Indianapolis against the Houston Texans offense that's top 10 in yards and points scored per game. And finally, I'd sit the Denver Broncos against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers coming off a bye at home, and the Broncos last week, when their offense gets shut down like it did by the Baltimore Ravens, that defense gets worn down and they give up a lot of points. They gave up over 30 to Baltimore last week. Look for Pittsburgh coming off the bye to have a lot of success as well.
Pittsburgh, they get busy on Monday night.
They get jiggy with it.
They gets theirs.
They gets theirs. Too jiggy.
Well, there you have it. Those are our top sits for week 9. For the fantasy consultant Nate Zagora, I'm TJ Jefferson. Good luck, and we'll see you next week on Fantasy Football Live.